The Israeli military stated that an airstrike in Gaza killed al-Haddad, identifying him as the leader of Hamas military wing. Israeli sources described al-Haddad as one of the last senior commanders who directed the planning and execution of the October 7, 2023 attacks. The reports indicate that al-Haddad was killed in a strike on Friday. His family confirmed his death in that Friday's strike, noting that he died alongside 6 other individuals. The conflict context remains fluid, with the U.S. State Department reporting that a ceasefire extension between Israel and Lebanon was agreed to for 45 days. However, the Israeli military claims the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas remains fragile due to unresolved issues, such as the disarmament of Hamas. Separately, the Gaza Health Ministry reported that Israel's retaliatory strikes have killed more than 72,700 people. The ministry, which is part of the Hamas-run government, is staffed by medical professionals who maintain detailed records. The Gaza Health Ministry also reported that despite a ceasefire taking effect in October, the area has seen near daily Israeli fire, resulting in over 850 deaths since that time. The next development will involve monitoring the status of the ceasefire and the progress on key issues cited as stalling the deal. Officials in British Columbia, Canada, announced that a Canadian who sailed on the motor vessel Hondius, a ship linked to a Hantavirus outbreak in April, has tested positive for the disease. This case brings the total number of confirmed infections among cruise passengers to 11. The positive test result is currently presumptive and requires confirmation from a national microbiology lab. The province's senior health officer said the 4 had not had any contact with the public since arriving in Canada. The case brings the total number of infections to 11, all among cruise passengers. 3 people who traveled on the ship have died, with 2 confirmed to have had the virus. British Columbia Health Officer Bonnie Henry said the person's test came back as a presumptive positive on Friday, meaning that it still remains to be confirmed by a national microbiology lab. The cruise ship, which set sail from Argentina on 1 April, finally docked in Tenerife, in Spain's Canary Islands, less than a week ago, allowing its 147 passengers and crew from 23 countries to leave and go into isolation. The motor vessel Hondius set sail from Argentina on April 1 and docked in Tenerife, Spain's Canary Islands, allowing 147 passengers and crew from 23 countries to isolate. Donald Trump stated that approving a $14 billion arms package for Taiwan, which has been delayed for months, depends on China. He told reporters that the weapons package is a very good negotiating chip for the United States. This comment comes as the U.S. has historically been Taiwan's strongest backer and arms supplier, even though the U.S. does not recognize Taiwan as a country. Separately, U.S. Congress had already approved an $11 billion arms sales package to the island in December. A Northeast Asia senior analyst for the International Crisis Group noted that conditioning arms sales on China could play into what the island's government views as a nightmare scenario. The U.S. government has also pledged significant investment in the microchip sector related to Taiwan, as part of a broader trade agreement earlier this year. Beijing reacted to the news by staging live-fire drills around the island. The next scheduled diplomatic event is a trip by Russian President Vladimir Putin to Beijing next week. U.S. and Nigerian forces reportedly killed a leader of the Islamic State group in Nigeria during a joint mission carried out on Friday. U.S. President Donald Trump announced the operation via a late-night social media post. The elimination of the leader is described by a task force spokesperson as the most consequential counterterrorism outcome in the region since 2015. Trump announced the joint operation in Africa's most populous country in a late-night social media post. Residents and security analysts have said Nigeria's security crisis affects both Christians, predominant in the south, and Muslims, who are the majority in the north. Al-Mainuki was based in the Sahel area, the monitoring group said, adding that it is believed that he fought in Libya when he was active in the North African nation more than a decade ago. He was sanctioned by the U.S. in 2023. Nigeria faces a security crisis affecting both Christians, predominant in the south, and Muslims, who are the majority in the north, according to residents and security analysts. Donald Trump endorsed U.S. Representative Julia Letlow in a move aimed at challenging incumbent Senator Bill Cassidy during the Louisiana Republican primary. This endorsement is part of a broader effort viewed by some as an attempt to influence the party's direction. Primary contest is complicated by the fact that a runoff election is scheduled for June 27 if no candidate secures at least 50% of the vote. Voters are expressing concerns over political loyalty, with some suggesting that adherence to Trump's wishes is not the sole measure of a politician's value. Paul Baker, a resident of New Orleans, stated that while he thought Cassidy's win was statistically unlikely, it was no longer impossible. Baker also noted that for him, the focus on loyalty to President Trump was the final nail in the coffin. This adds to the complexity. Louisiana leaders have decided to delay House primaries until a future date to allow time to redraw district lines, a shift that could cause confusion for voters this Saturday. The winner of this primary is noted to almost certainly take the November general election due to the state's Republican leanings. Prosecutors allege that a commander of an Iraqi militia planned more than a dozen terrorist attacks targeting interests North America and Europe. The charges stem from alleged actions intended to retaliate for the Iran war and further the goals of groups like Kataib Hezbollah. He appeared in Manhattan federal court and was detained pending trial, according to the Justice Department in court papers. Saudi allegedly directed and urged others to attack U.S. and Israeli interests in retaliation for the Iran war. The complaint details planning for attacks across Europe and Canada, including incidents Liege, Belgium, and Rotterdam, Netherlands. Prosecutors also allege Saudi was involved in plotting attacks targeting Jewish institutions cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Scottsdale, Arizona. He is charged with 6 terrorism-related counts in the criminal complaint. The case involves allegations of planning and promotion of attacks against U.S. and Israeli interests. The next step is the pending trial in federal court. A woman has asked an Ontario, Canada, court to grant her access to medically assisted dying, or MID, citing her severe mental illness. She stated she has undergone nearly every available treatment for bipolar disorder and PTSD, including behavioral therapy, medication, and electroconvulsive therapy. The individual is currently enrolled in a psychiatric care program at a local hospital, a facility designed for people with severe mental illness who have exhausted all treatment options. However, she stated that her illness is worsening and that she cannot afford to wait any longer. The planned expansion of MID to include people whose sole condition is mental illness has faced delays in Canada, most recently postponed until next year due to concerns about the healthcare system's readiness. During a review of the expansion, a parliamentary committee heard from experts who warned against moving forward. Separately, the number of approved MID cases has risen, increasing from 2 in 2010 to 219 in 2024. The status of the planned expansion remains subject to legislative review, and the court action represents the immediate legal challenge regarding access to the procedure. A UN court stated that Félicien Kabuga, a Rwandan suspect accused of bankrolling the 1994 genocide, died while hospitalized in The Hague. This report comes Saturday, 3 years after the court had previously declared him unfit to continue standing trial. The International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals confirmed in a statement that Kabuga passed away while receiving care in The Hague, and the medical officer of the UN detention unit was immediately notified. Authorities have since ordered an investigation to establish the specific circumstances surrounding his death. Kabuga was accused of encouraging and bankrolling the mass killing of Rwanda's Tutsi minority. His trial began in 2022, following a 2023 declaration that he suffered from dementia, which led the judges to establish a procedure to continue hearing evidence without the possibility of a conviction. An arrest warrant for Kabuga had been issued back in 2013, and a $5 million bounty was previously announced. The investigation into his death is intended to establish the circumstances of how he died. A car plowed into pedestrians in the northern Italian city of Modena on Saturday, injuring at least 8 people, 4 of whom were in critical condition. Local authorities reported. Mayor Massimo Mazzetti confirmed that no one was killed in the crash. The incident required emergency services, including police and carabinieri, to secure the scene. Authorities are investigating whether the driver acted deliberately or if he was under the influence of substances. Mazzetti also noted that one victim was pinned against a shop window and required the amputation of both legs. The driver, identified as a 31-year-old man from Bergamo, was detained and questioned at police headquarters. Witnesses reported seeing the man holding a knife, though the mayor stated he did not manage to stab anyone. The driver initially attempted to flee the scene before being stopped by citizens and then by police. Investigators are currently working to determine the cause of the incident. The next step involves authorities continuing to question the driver regarding his actions. Some of the nation's most selective institutions are increasing their rural enrollment rates. This trend is being supported by millions of dollars provided by a rural alumnus of the University of Chicago. The overall challenge, noted, is moving students from applying to actually attending. The next update will need to clarify what changes, who is affected, and what officials or records confirm.